Good morning, guys. In the last session, we started our discussion related to what is Spring Boot and what is the main advantage of using Spring Boot. So can you quickly tell me what is the Spring Boot here? What is the Spring Boot? Spring Boot is an extension for Spring Framework. Spring Boot is an extension for Spring Framework. Using Spring Boot, we can develop several types of applications. Whatever the applications you can develop by using Spring Framework, same type of applications can be developed by using Spring Boot also. By using Spring Boot, we can develop standalone applications, guys. And Spring Boot will support for web applications development, as well as Spring Boot is supporting for distributed applications development. So any application that runs only in one system, which is called standalone application, which will execute from the main method. Web application means multiple users can access at a time. So when you go for web application, mainly it will provide C2B. Customers can communicate with our application directly. But nowadays in the market, distributed applications are having more demand, nothing but web services and REST APIs. So if one application is communicating with the another application, then that is called distributed applications. Distributed applications are used for B2B communication, right? Spring Boot is an extension for the Spring Framework. Using Spring Boot, we can develop several types of applications. And we can say Spring Boot is an approach. Spring Boot is an approach to develop Spring-based applications. So whatever the Spring-based applications you want to develop, so you can develop the applications by using normal Spring Framework. Same application you can develop by using Spring Boot also. Spring Boot is an approach to develop Spring-based applications with less configurations. Okay, the main difference between the Spring and Spring Boot. When we use Spring Framework, we need to manage the configurations, whereas when we go for the Spring Boot, auto configuration concept will be available. If we develop project using Spring, then we need to manage configurations. If we develop a project using Spring, then we need to manage configurations. Okay. If we develop the project using Spring Boot, then we are going to get auto configuration support. If we develop the same project by using Spring Boot, then we will get auto configuration concept. What is the meaning of auto configuration? If you develop a project by using Spring Framework, then we need to manage the configurations. If we develop the same project by using Spring Boot, then we will get auto configuration. Can you tell me what is the meaning of auto configuration? What is the meaning of auto configuration, guys? Spring Boot will identify configurations required for the project, and it will provide those configurations. As a programmer, you no need to deal with any configurations in the project. You no need to create bean.xml. You no need to create the database connection. You no need to create the login page for the security. Okay. You no need to download and start the Tomcat server for the deployment. Everything will be taken care by Spring Boot only. So that concept is called as auto configuration. This is one of the biggest advantage that is available in the Spring Boot. And what we can achieve by using Spring Boot? Using Spring Boot, we can achieve rapid application development. The main purpose of the Spring Boot, rapid application development. What is the meaning of rapid application development, guys? Quickly we can develop and run our application because common logics will be taken care by the framework. Configurations also will be taken care by the framework. You just need to develop your business logic and you can run your application. So we can achieve rapid application development by using Spring Boot. So Spring is available, Spring Boot is available. So if you develop a project by using Spring, you need to take care of the configurations. If you develop the project by using Spring Boot, auto configuration support will be available. So can you please tell me once again, what is the meaning of auto configuration? What is the meaning of auto configuration? Spring Boot will identify configurations required for our project and it will provide those configurations. Can you tell me some common examples of those configurations? Starting IOC container, and component scanning, identifying the Spring Beans which are available. And the next one, it is going to take care of create the connection pool to communicate with the database. And the next one, start the embedded servers, default security for our application. So instead of you are managing all these works, instead of you are writing all these logics, Boot is going to provide all these logics for your application. So Boot will identify configurations required for the project and it will provide those configurations for us. Spring Boot will take care of starting IOC container. Spring Boot will take care of component scanning. Spring Boot will take care of connection pooling. Spring Boot will take care of the server to run the application. And Spring Boot will take care of default security for our application. All these things will come under auto configuration. So as Spring Boot is providing the auto configuration, we can develop and deliver our applications quickly to the customer. That is called rapid application development. Very quickly, we can develop our project by using Spring Boot. So if anybody asks you, what is the Spring Boot? Then what is our answer? Spring Boot is an extension for Spring Framework, and it is one approach to develop Spring applications with less configurations. Okay, by using Spring Boot, we can develop several types of application. Standalone project you can develop, web application you can develop, distributed application also you can develop by using Spring Boot. And the main advantage is auto configuration. So in our project, what configuration is required, Boot will identify that configuration and Boot will provide those configurations, which is called as auto configuration concept in the Spring Boot. What are the examples for the auto configuration? Starting IOC container, component scanning, creating the connection pool, starting the embedded servers, and default security will be provided by the Spring Boot. As these things are providing by the Spring Boot by default, we can achieve rapid application development by using Spring Boot. And advantages with the Spring Boot. Okay, one advantage already we know, auto configuration. What are the other advantages available with the Spring Boot? Advantages with the Spring Boot. The first advantage with the Spring Boot, that is starter forms. Form starters they have provided. Spring Boot provided a concept called form starter. Form starters nothing but dependencies, guys. In the form.xml, we are adding the dependency, right? So you no need to add lot of dependencies. For web application, if you add one dependency, it will take care of all the jar files required for the development. It will take care of the servers also required for the application. So to simplify our Maven configuration, instead of adding 10 dependencies, you can add only one dependency that will take care of all the configurations required for the project. Form starters concept is available in the Spring Boot. What are the form starters available? So in the Spring Boot, we have a form starter called web starter is available. If you add web starter in the form.xml, it will download all the jar files required for the web application. It will download the server also required for the application deployment. So there are several form starters available. If you add JPA starter, Boot will create the connection pool to communicate with the database. You no need to load the driver. You no need to create the connection. When you add JPA starter in the form.xml, it will take care of all the requirements, all the configurations to communicate with the database. So loading the driver, creating the connection pool, providing the connections, everything will be taken care by JPA starter. And similarly, if you want to add the default security for your application, there is a dependency called security starter. If I add this security starter in the pom.xml, yesterday we have seen one login page is coming by default and it is authenticating the credentials also. So all that logic is already implemented in the security starter. And similarly, if you want to send one minute, guys, I got one message. Okay, now, so the first advantage with the Spring Boot, that is Form Starter. Nothing but dependencies will be available. So what kind of dependencies? Web Starter is available, JPA Starter available, Security Starter is available. If you want to send the emails by using Spring Boot application, Mail Starter also will be available. And I want to monitor my application. To monitor our application, there is a Actuator Starter is available. So if you add actuator dependency in the form.xml, then it will monitor and it will manage our application. That means how many threads are running in our application. Okay. How much memory used in the JVM, how much memory utilized, how much memory free in the JVM, we can understand. What all the classes loaded by our application, how many classes loaded, what all the URL patterns available in our application, what is the health of the application, all those things we can monitor and we can manage by using a concept called actuator. I want to send email by using Spring Boot application. For that, you can go for Mail Starter. I want to secure my application. I can go for Security Starter. I want to communicate with the database. I can go for JPA Starter. I want to develop a web application. Then I can go for Web Starter. So like this, Spring Boot provided lot of starters for us. Spring Boot provided a lot of form starters for us. What is the advantage with these form starters, guys? Using form starters, we can simplify Maven configurations. You no need to add hundreds of dependencies in the pom.xml. You add one form starter, it will take care of all the dependencies required for the application. Are you able to follow me? So what is a Spring Boot? Spring Boot is one approach to develop Spring-based applications with less configurations. Spring is available, Spring Boot is available. By using both, we can develop the application. What is the difference between Spring and Spring Boot now? In the Spring, we need to do the manual configurations, whereas in the Spring Boot, auto configuration is available. What is the meaning of auto configuration? What is the meaning of auto configuration? Based on the starters we configured in the project, it will identify configurations required for the project. If you add a web starter in the pom.xml, Spring Boot will understand, okay, this person is developing a web application. For web application, server is required. It will download the server. If you just add one dependency in the pom.xml, it will think, it will use its brain. Spring Boot having brain. It will use its brain. It will provide the configurations for you. How Spring Boot will understand server is required for the project based on the starter. In the pom.xml, if you add web starter, it will understand that web starter means he want to develop a web application. For the web application, server is required. Download the Tomcat server. Suppose if you add JPA starter, JPA purpose, communicate with the database. To communicate with the database, driver is required, connection is required. One connection or multiple connections. Multiple connection. Then if you add JPA starter in the pom.xml, it will create the connection pool also for you. Okay. Suppose if you add security starter in the pom.xml, when we will add security starter? Why we will add security starter? If you want to secure our application. When you add the security starter, Boot will understand, okay, This project requires a Spring security. Let me provide the login page to secure the application. If you add the dependency, Boot will read the dependencies. Based on the dependencies, it will identify what configuration required for your project. It will provide that configuration. That is called auto configuration. The first advantage with the Spring Boot, POM starters. So what is the main purpose of the POM starters? POM starters are used to enable auto configurations. POM starters are used to enable auto configurations. Then second advantage with the Spring Boot is auto configuration only. So based on the POM starters, Boot will identify whatever the starter. If you add web starter, then only Tomcat will come. If you don't add web starter, Tomcat will not come. If you add JPA starter, then only connection pool will come. If you add security starter, then only login page will come. That means whatever the starter you add, based on that, it will provide the configuration for your project. So based on POM starters, Boot will identify configurations required for the project. And Boot will manage those configurations. So whatever the starters you add in the pom.xml, based on the starter, Boot will identify what configurations required for the project, and Boot will manage those configurations, which is called auto configuration. Can you tell me once again, what is POM starter? What is auto configuration? Come on, what is a POM starter?
POM starter used to
From last 10 minutes, I'm explaining POM starter. What is POM starter?
POM starter is used.
A single configuration file.
In POM starter, we
What
can
is POM
configure
starter?
POM starter used to
POM starter
enable
nothing
the
but dependencies.
auto configuration.
POM starter nothing but Maven dependencies. What is the purpose of those POM starters?
We
To
can
enable
configure.
auto configuration. Can you tell me what is the Spring Boot? Spring Boot is an approach to develop Spring application with the less configuration. What is the main power of Spring Boot? Rapid application development because of auto configuration. What is the difference between Spring and Spring Boot?
Spring Boot is
Manual configuration and
of
auto configuration. In the Spring, we need to take care of the configurations. In the Spring Boot, auto configuration concept is available. So can you tell me what are the advantages with the Spring Boot? POM starters, auto configuration. What is POM starter?
In POM starter, we can provide all
Dependencies.
dependencies.
Maven dependencies. So if you add a POM starter, then only auto configuration will come based on the starter you have added. If I add web starter, what will happen? If I add web starter, what will happen?
web application development
If I
dependency
add
will
web starter, Tomcat server will be started. If I add JPA starter, what will happen?
Then it will connect.
Connection pool will be
connection pool.
connected. If I add security starter,
It will add the
login
security
page.
service.
If I add mail starter, emails can be sent. If I add actuator, monitor the application. Right. So can you, if anybody asks you, what is auto configuration in the Spring Boot? Based on the starter, it will identify the configuration and it will provide the configuration required for the application. So if I add web starter, then it will provide Tomcat server. It will provide the Tomcat server. If I add JPA starter, then it will provide connection pooling. It will provide connection pooling. If I add security starter, default login page. If I add actuator starter, it will provide monitoring. It will provide monitoring for our application. These all comes under auto configurations only. Are you able to follow me? Can you repeat once again? What is POM starter? Maven dependencies. Why we need to work with the POM starters? To enable auto configuration. Based on the starter you add, Boot will provide the configuration, which is called auto configuration. What is the definition for auto configuration?
It will provide the auto configuration means
based on the dependencies, based on the starters, Boot will identify the configuration, will provide the configuration required for the application. Any example for auto configuration in the Spring Boot?
Spring
Web
Web
starter will
Starter.
provide Tomcat server. JPA starter will provide
Connection
connection
pooling.
pooling. Security starter will provide
Login
login
page.
page. Mail starter will support email sending. Actuator will provide monitoring.
Monitor.
Are you clear?
Yes.
Online students, are you with me?
Yes.
Yes,
Very good. Now,
Sorry.
third advantage with the Spring Boot. Third advantage with the Spring Boot, that is embedded servers. Third advantage with the Spring Boot, that is embedded servers, or we can say embedded containers. So you no need to download and install the server to deploy the web application. When you are attending the servlets, what you have done? You downloaded the Tomcat server, you installed Tomcat server, you deploy your application in the Tomcat server manually. But in the Spring Boot, that is not required. Spring Boot is having a concept called embedded server. So downloading the server, running the server, deploying the application will be taken care by embedded container. So Spring Boot will take care of servers and deployments. Spring Boot will take care of servers to run our web applications. We no need to download and install. We no need to download and install servers to deploy the web application. If you go for normal web application development by using servlet, server we have to set up. Even if you go for the Spring also, server we have to set up. But when you go for the Spring Boot, you no need to take care of the server. Boot will provide the server for your application. Boot supporting for 3 embedded servers. Spring Boot will support 3 embedded servers, 3 embedded containers. What are those? One is a Tomcat, which is a default. If you add a web starter, Tomcat will come as a default container. I don't want a Tomcat, I want other web server. There is a server called Jetty and there is a server called Netty. So Spring Boot will support for 3 embedded containers. One is a Tomcat, another one is a Jetty, third one is Netty. Out of these 3, what is the default server we are going to get?
Tomcat.
Yes. If you
Tomcat.
create a project with the web starter, by default we are going to get Tomcat as a embedded container. If you don't want a Tomcat, you can configure Jetty, you can configure Netty also as an embedded container. Sir, how to change the server? That we will discuss in the web MVC. When we develop a web application by using Spring Boot, then I will add the web starter. When I add web starter, Tomcat will come. If I don't want a Tomcat, I can go for Jetty, I can go for the Netty also. Embedded servers is one of the advantage available in the Spring Boot. Okay, so we know 3 advantages of Spring Boot now. What are those 3 advantages? Form starters, auto configuration, embedded server. What is the meaning of embedded server? What is the meaning of embedded server?
This
Spring
server by
Boot
default
will identify the server required for the application and it will deploy the application in the server. How many servers it is going to provide? 3 servers it is going to
3
provide.
server.
What are the 3 servers? Tomcat
Tomcat,
available,
Jetty, and
Jetty
Netty and
available,
Netty.
Netty available. What is the default one? Can we
Tomcat.
change to
Tomcat.
other server also? Yes,
Yes.
some configuration, some customization we have to do. We will discuss in the web MVC module.
Sir,
All right.
this sir, one question.
Yeah.
So this server is not only to start the web application. We can use for the microservice API also,
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes, sir. Web microservice is also a web application only, right? REST API.
Okay.
For them also, we can use these embedded servers.
These are the web servers only, right? Jetty and
Right,
Netty.
sir. Correct.
Okay.
Guys, any questions? We will take at the end of the session, guys. Okay, please. If you are now, there are around 780 people available in the online. If you guys are asking some doubts in the middle of the session, class will not happen properly because 80 people will get the doubts. All are new to the Spring Boot. Everybody will get some doubt. If they are asking doubts in the middle, class will not happen properly. It will be like a question answer only. It will not like a session. So that's why online students, when you are having some doubt, please post that doubt in the chat box. So you may feel that, sir, I got the doubt right now. After half an hour, I may forget my doubt. I want to ask immediately. If you ask doubt immediately, other people also will ask the questions again. If one person is asking a doubt, other person also will ask a doubt. If 70 people asking the doubts at a time, class will not happen properly. So it will be like a discussion only. It will not like a session. So that's why I request online people, I'm keeping all of you on the mute when the class is going on. Last 15 minutes, I will unmute you people. You can interact with me for the discussion. So if you get any doubt, immediately type your doubt in the chat box. At the end of the session, I will read all the chat messages and I will clarify your questions also. And that chat box will be there for your reference also to see what all the questions you have posted. At the end of the session, you can ask me. Guys, all of you, okay with this process? Online students, could you please respond? Are you okay with this? Questions we will take at the end of the session. First, let me take 1 hour 15 minutes class. Last 15 minutes, we will interact with everybody for any doubts if you are having. Okay, very good, perfect. So we are talking about advantages with the Spring Boot. First advantage is form starter. Second advantage is auto configuration. Third advantage is embedded servers. Form starters are going to simplify our Maven configuration, and form starters are used to enable auto configurations in boot application. When you create a boot application, you will add some form starters. Based on the form starters only, boot will recognize what is required for your project. Okay. Then auto configuration, a biggest advantage in the Spring Boot. Auto configuration means based on the starters, they will identify what is required for us and they will provide that. Instead of we are doing the configuration, boot will take care of the configurations, which is called auto configuration. Next one, embedded servers available in the Spring Boot. Whenever you are creating a web application, a server is required to run the application. Instead of we are downloading and installing the server, boot will take care of the server if you add the web starter. So there are 3 types of servers boot is supporting. One is called Tomcat, another one is called Jetty, another one is called Net. Offline people, concentrate properly. Don't behave like body present, mind absent. At the end of the session, you need to give me reverse KT. What is the meaning of reverse KT? Whatever I have explained in 1.5 hours, you need to explain in the 5 to 10 minutes of time. Whatever I am explaining in the 1.5 hour time, I am performing dependency injection now. I am performing dependency injection now. I am injecting subject into your brain. I am injecting the subject into your brain. This is dependency injection only. At the end of the class, I want that Spring Bean as an output. I want whatever I am explaining, same thing you need to explain me back. Because tomorrow when you go for the company also, KT will be available, reverse KT will be available. KT means whenever you newly joined in the project, suppose for example, you newly joined, let's take a simple scenario. Last week in my team, one person joined with 3 years of experience. I have taken the interview, I selected that candidate. He's from Pune. He joined in my team. He's my team member now. 3 years experience. From last 1 week, we are giving project KT for that guy. Project KT I am providing to that guy. Project KT means what is our project, what are the microservices available, what are the modules available, what is our database, where is our configuration, what is the security, how to run this application, and all these things we have explained to that person in 1 week of time, because he is an experienced Java developer, but he is new to my company, he is new to my project, new to my team. So if he want to work on the project, he should know about the project first. Where is this project? What is Git repository? Where is the code available? Where is the database available? Where is the configuration available? How to set up the workspace? How to run the application? Every day, 1 hour we are giving the KT to that person. So with yesterday, KT got completed. Then today, there is a reverse KT. That means whatever I have explained in the last 1 week to that person, today he has to explain me. Because if he provide the reverse KT, then I will understand whatever I have explained, that person understood or not. Whatever the KT I have given, if that person did not understand that KT, who will affected? As a project manager, I will be affected, right? If he don't have the clarity on the project, he will do some mistakes in the project. If he do some mistakes in the project, client will ask that person or client will ask the project manager. If he do the mistake also, it will affect on my career. So that's why I have given the KT to that person. Now I am taking the reverse KT. With the reverse KT, I will understand how much he understood as part of the KT. Whether his understanding is correct or not, I will verify. If his understanding is correct, we are good. I can assign the task for them. If his understanding is not correct, I cannot give the task to that person. Are you getting my point? So in the company, KT will be available, reverse KT also will be available. When you newly joined in the company, your team members, your team lead or your manager will give the KT for you. Once KT completed, you need to give the reverse KT for them. If you give the reverse KT, then we will understand your understanding is correct or not. Are you getting my point? So that's why for software engineers, communication skills are very, very, very important. Because once you join in the team, people will be there from different states. People will be there from different countries also. Only Telugu people will not be available. Only Hindi people will not be available. Okay. Foreigners will be there in the team. Some people from Hindi mother tongue will be there. Some people from Telugu mother tongue, Bhojpuri mother tongue. So different language people will be there in the team. We need to communicate with all of them. For that, English we need. We need to speak in the English. So that is a global language for everybody. Communication skills are important. Presentation skills also important. So when that person is giving the KT, all my team members will be there. Whatever he is explaining, my team members should understand. In my team, Telugu people available, North people available, foreigners also available. So your presentation skills are very, very, very important, guys. Communication skills are very, very important. That's why I told you, self-introduction, roles and responsibilities, practice for 10 times. Did you complete that? Can I check your mobiles today? How many times you recorded? I gave the task, right? What is the task I have given? You have seen my video. You have taken KT from me. Indirectly, you have taken the KT from me. Indirectly means I have given my videos for you. You watched my video. Self-introduction, roles and responsibilities. Now I want reverse KT. What is the meaning of reverse KT? You need to tell me your self-introduction. You need to tell me your roles and responsibilities as a developer. For practice, I told you one technique. Record your voice in the mobile and listen to that. Whether you are confident or not, you will understand. Able to follow me? I will check that today. Right. So now you need to give the KT, reverse KT at the end of the session. Whatever I'm explaining in 1.5 hours, you need to summarize in 5 minutes of time. Okay, good. Perfect. So we understood what is the Spring Boot, what are the advantages of the Spring Boot. Another advantage with the Spring Boot, guys, actuators available. Another advantage with the Spring Boot, that is actuators. Actuators are used to monitor and manage our application. Actuators are used to monitor and manage our applications. What is the meaning of monitoring? Check health of the application, check beans loaded by our application, check URL patterns available in our application, check threads available in our application, check heap of our application. So you can check how many threads are running in your application, how many threads are dead, how many threads are sleeping, how many threads are waiting. You can understand that by using actuators concept. And you can check heap memory details. So in the JVM, heap memory will be available. So how much memory is there in the JVM? How much memory utilized by our objects? How much memory is free? Okay, all those details also you can monitor by using actuators. Actuators are used to monitor and manage our Spring Boot application. By using actuator, you can check health of the application, you can check beans loaded, you can check URL patterns available, you can check threads of the application, you can check heap memory of your application also. So these actuators are basically called as production ready features. These actuators are basically called as production ready features. So when we are deploying our application in the production, lot of monitoring is required. Whenever you deploy a project in the production, lot of monitoring is required. So that monitoring we are going to do by using actuators concept in the Spring Boot. Okay. So, and another advantage in the Spring Boot, which is component scanning. Another advantage in the Spring Boot, which is component scanning. Component scanning in the sense, whenever you create a project with some classes, you no need to start the IOC container, you no need to configure any XML. Boot will go to all the packages in the project. Boot will identify Spring Bean classes available in the project. Earlier, what we have done, we use it to create one XML file. In the XML, we configure the bean. XML we will give as an input for the IOC. But in the Spring Boot, you no need to do like that. You just create the project. You just create the Java class. Boot will go to all your classes in the project. Hey, are you Spring Bean? Then come, I will create the object for you. It will go to each and every class available in the project. It will check whether that class is a Spring Bean or not. If that class is a Spring Bean, it will create the object automatically by using IOC container. So component scanning. So using component scanning, Spring Boot will scan. Using component scanning, Spring Boot will scan our project packages, and it will identify Spring Beans. Okay, you no need to configure them in the XML. You no need to tell to the IOC container. Boot will scan all the packages. Boot will scan all the classes. Which class is a Spring Bean? Boot will load that class and will give to IOC container. Component scanning is another advantage available in the Spring Boot. So no need to write any XML. No need to start the IOC container. So identifying the Spring Beans, starting the IOC container, creating the objects, dependency injection, servers, everything will be taken care by Spring Boot only. So because of these advantages only, Spring Boot is having lot of demand in the market. Why Spring Boot developers are having this much demand in the market? Because in the industry, every Java project is developing by using So if people are, so main drawback, people are technically not good, communication wise not good. These are the two challenges for the people to get the software job. So first thing, technically they are not good. They are not learning the subject properly. They are not able to develop the project on their own. They are learning the course. They are completing the full stack development course in the Amirpet or in any other location also. But the people who completed the full stack development, how many people can develop one project end to end on their own? That is the question. People are completing the full stack development. They are learning front end. They are learning back end. They are learning database also. But if I ask you to develop one project end to end and deploy that project in the cloud platform, map that project to the domain name, deliver that project to the client, how many people can do like that? If I take average 1,000 people, if I take 1,000 people who completed full stack development course in the Amirpet, out of 1,000, I cannot find 5 to 10 people also who can develop entire project on their own. Is it true or not? 100% true. Only 5 to 10 people out of 1,000 can develop entire project on their own. They can deploy in the cloud. they can deliver to the client with the domain name also. The remaining people just completing the course theoretically. They don't have practical knowledge. So that is the gap. That is the gap. That is the reason people are not getting the jobs. And some people, technically they are good. They can develop the project, but communication is weak. They are not able to explain properly in the interview. Self-introduction, roles and responsibilities, group discussions, they are failing in the communication rounds. For IT companies, communication is very important. The reason, projects we are developing for the foreigners. Our clients are foreigners. When we want to interact with the foreigners, we should understand what they are speaking. They should understand what we are speaking. So that communication is very important thing. Subject is important. Project implementation is technically you need to know all the concepts, and practicals. Project you should be able to do on your own. Second part. Third part, presentation skills. Communication skills are important. If you have these three, you will get 20 to 30 jobs also. There is no problem. There are some people who got 10 offer letters, 15 offer letters, 20 offer letters also. They are good technically. They developed a project on their own. Their communication is also good. Due to lack of these three things, people are failing in the interviews. People are becoming unemployed because of these three things. Getting my point? Will you agree with me? These are the three problems. What is the first problem? Technical skills. They don't know all the concepts. Suppose if you go for Java. So in the Java, the real-time concepts people don't know. That is the first problem. Second problem, unable to complete one project on their own. If I give you a task, they are not able to develop the task on their own. If I ask you to develop one banking application, you are not able to develop on your own. One e-commerce application, I will ask you to develop one blog application. You cannot do it on your own. You know the concepts, you know Java, you know database, you know UI. But by using all these things, you cannot develop one project. You are not able to develop one project. That is the second problem. Third problem, communication. Yep, fine. So we are understanding what is the Spring Boot and what are the advantages of the Spring Boot. Now, so let me tell you, just observe me, just observe my face. If somebody asks me, what is the Spring Boot? If somebody asks me what is Spring Boot, then I will tell that. So if I go for any interview, if they ask me what is the Spring Boot, how I will answer that? Spring Boot is an approach to develop Spring-based applications. Earlier, people used to develop the projects by using Spring Framework. When you go for Spring Framework, you can develop the entire application also. But the problem with the Spring Framework is lot of configurations we need to take care of manually. Programmer is responsible to take care of the configurations in the Spring application. And those configurations are not only for one project, that is common for every project. That's why Spring people want to reduce those manual configurations in the project. That's why they provided Spring Boot for us. Spring Boot is not alternate for the Spring. Spring Boot is just one extension for the Spring framework. Whatever we can develop by using Spring, same thing we can develop by using Spring Boot also with less configurations, with minimal configuration. The main advantage with the Spring Boot is rapid application development. We can develop the applications very quickly by using Spring Boot because there are several advantages are there. Okay, what are the advantages with the Spring Boot? Form starters, auto configuration, embedded servers, actuators, component scanning. Form starters are used to simplify Maven configuration. By using the form starter, auto configurations will come for our application. What is auto configuration? Auto configuration means Spring Boot will identify configuration. Auto configuration means Spring Boot will identify configuration required for the project based on the form starter. For example, if I add a web starter, Tomcat server will come for the application. If I add security starter, login page will come. If I add JPA starter, connection pin will come. If I add actuator starter, monitoring will be available. If I add mail starter, emails I can send. So all these configurations, Boot will take care of for our application, which is called auto configuration. Another advantage, embedded server. So when you develop a web application, server is required to run the application. But in the Spring Boot, if you add a web starter, server will be provided by the Spring Boot only. Spring Boot will support for 3 types of servers: Tomcat server, Jetty server, Netty server. By default is a Tomcat. You can change from Tomcat to Jetty or Netty also by making some configuration change. And another advantage, actuators. Actuators are used to provide monitoring capacity and monitoring facility for our application. We can monitor health of the application. We can monitor beans loaded by the application, heap details, thread details we can monitor by using actuators. Actuators are providing production ready features for our application. And the next one, component scanning is another advantage. So when you create a lot of classes in the project, you no need to configure them as a Spring Bean. IOC container, you no need to start manually. Boot will identify all the Spring Bean classes available in the project. Boot will scan all the classes in the project, will recognize which class is a Spring Bean. It will load that class, will give to IOC container. Then IOC container will manage our classes, and IOC container will perform dependency injection. So this is about Spring Boot. If I explain like this, will that person ask any question on the Spring Boot? No. Why? The way that I am explaining the subject, the way I am confident, the way that I am presenting, all these things they will observe. So by observing my explanation, my voice confidence levels, they will get very good impression. Okay, this person is very good in the Spring Boot. They will not ask any other questions. But when you are explaining that, if same thing, if I ask you to explain confidence problem, voice problem, body language, the body language will change when you know the subject. When your presentation skills are good, when your technical skills are good, the way that you present will be different level. Okay, so by looking at the candidate body language, we will understand whether he is a fake experienced person or genuine experienced person. Now, can anybody tell me now whatever I have explained? Reverse KT. Anybody want to tell what is Spring Boot? What are the advantages of the Spring Boot? Yes, whether it is right or wrong, you just give it a try. Stand up. Yes. Good. Yeah, little practice is required. So you see the difference, the flow. When faculty is explaining that the flow and the student explaining the flow, he understands the concept, some presentation need to be corrected. Okay, you got the concept, presentation you need to change. Right. Anyone else? Yeah. That's it. Okay. Yeah. Anyone else? Try karo. You try. No problem. Stand up. Yeah. Tell me, guys. So this is this is not a real interview. If you give wrong answer, I'm not going to reject you. This is practice. We came here for learning. If you do some mistake, I will correct that mistake. So it is just a practice. If you explain like this multiple times, then your communication skills will improve, your presentation skills will improve, and you will overcome that stage fear problem. Okay, biggest challenge for the other problem for the student, stage fear. So they are not able to speak in front of the people. Yep, go ahead. I will encourage you. Go ahead. That's it. Can you repeat again? Correct? Correct. We'll take care of the configurations. What are the advantages of the Spring Boot? Form starters? Yes. Form starters are used to simplify the Maven configuration. Based on the form starter, auto configuration will come. Auto configuration means it will identify the configurations required for the project and will provide. And we have embedded servers. Servers will be provided by the Spring Boot. 3 servers it is giving: Tomcat, Jetty, and Netty. And actuators to monitor the application. Component scanning, it will scan the classes, will identify the Spring Beans, and will manage the configurations. Okay, good. Thank you. Perfect, guys. So with this, we understood what is the Spring Boot and what are the advantages of using the Spring Boot. By using Spring Boot, we can achieve rapid application development. Now, creating Spring Boot project. Okay, how to create Spring Boot project, right? So now, here, guys, to create the Spring Boot project, you can use IDE or you can use initializer website. You can use IDE or you can use initializer website. So let me show you. Now, when you are going to create a Spring Boot application, there is one website is available, Start Spring Initializer website. There is one website called Spring Initializer website is available. By using this initializer website, you can create the Spring Boot application. So the thing is, when you create the project by using initializer website, it will download the project as a zip file. It will download the project as a zip file. You need to extract that zip file and you need to import the project into IDE. You can use Eclipse IDE. You can use a ToolSuite IDE. You can use IntelliJ IDEA also to develop the Spring Boot applications, right? But if you use any website, if you use any IDE, the source to create the Spring Boot application is initializer website only. Without initializer website, Spring Boot project cannot be created. Even if you use the IDE, like if you are using STS IDE to create the project, or if you're using IntelliJ IDE to create the project, internally, our IDEs also will communicate with the initializer website only to create the project. Okay, you can use STS IDE to create the project. You can use IntelliJ IDEA also to create the project. When you use any IDE to create the boot application, IDE will download the project from the initializer website only. That means if you want to create Spring Boot project in your system, internet connection is mandatory. Without having internet connection to the computer, you cannot create the Spring Boot project, because project creation means it has to communicate with the initializer website. Where is that initializer website? In some other location. So our computer should communicate with that initializer website to get the Spring Boot application. That's why for your laptop or for your system, internet connection is mandatory in order to create the boot application. Are you able to follow me? Suppose if you are using Eclipse IDE to create the boot project, some people are using Eclipse IDE to create the boot application. So here, what you need to do is you should go to start.spring.io website, which is called Spring Initializer website. This website is used to create the Spring Boot application. Here you select what type of project. I want to use Maven. I want to use Java, Spring Boot version, group ID, artifact ID, what all the dependencies you want. For example, I want web starter. Select web here. Web starter will be available. I want security for the project. Select the Spring security. I want data JPA, Spring data JPA. Like this, what all the dependencies are required, you can add the dependencies here. These are called starters. What all the POM starters you want for your project, you can select the starters here. Currently, if you see, no dependency selected. Now you can click on add button and you can select web. Spring web starter is available. Can you read this one? Build a web application, REST API using MVC, uses. Can you read this point? When you use a web starter, it will provide Apache Tomcat as a embedded container. You no need to download and install the server. Like this, you can select the dependency. If you don't want, you can delete it. Okay. If you want, you can add the dependency and you click on generate button. When I click on the generate button, it is going to download the project as a zip file. It will download the project as a zip file. Then you go to that downloads folder. Whatever the zip file is downloaded, you extract that zip file. Okay. You extract that zip file. Then inside that zip file, our project is available. Now we need to import that project into IDE to start the coding. Are you able to understand? So if you want to use Eclipse IDE, you go to Initializer website, you create the project, you download the project, you import the project into Eclipse IDE. That is one approach. Okay. Suppose if you want to create the project by using STS IDE, you no need to create and download the project manually. In the STS, directly you can create the project. When you create the project using STS, directly it will download the project from the Initializer website. Manually, you no need to download, extract, import, not required. STS is provided by Spring people only. That is the IDE given by the Spring development team. If you want to create a Spring application or a Spring Boot application, directly you can go for STS IDE. So if you go to STS IDE, which is Spring Toolsuite IDE, when you go for Spring Toolsuite IDE, directly you can create the Spring Boot project. You no need to go to Initializer website. You no need to download the project. You no need to import the project manually. So let us see here. I have opened my STS IDE. File, new, what is the option? Spring Starter project is nothing but Spring Boot project. Spring Starter project is nothing but Spring Boot project. Now you see here, file, new, Spring Starter project. So it is connecting to which website, guys? Start.spring.io. That means without Initializer website, can I create the Spring Boot project? No. Even if you use the IDE also, IDE will communicate with the Initializer website only to download the project. If you go for Eclipse, directly you cannot create like this. When you go for Eclipse IDE, directly you cannot create the Spring Boot project. If you want to use Eclipse, what you need to do? Go to Initializer website, create the project, download the project, extract the zip file, then import that project into Eclipse IDE, then you can do the coding. That is better, or STS is better? STS is better. Why STS is better? In the IDE, directly you can create the boot application. IDE will download from the Initializer website. So that's why net connection is required. If internet is not available, can it communicate with this URL now? My IDE cannot communicate with the URL. So STS is recommended to develop Spring Boot applications because it is easy for the programmer. It is, and I will tell you one more thing. If it is a company project, in the company, once the project creation every day I will do, or only one time we will do in the company? In the company, for 1 year, we will work on only one project. Project creation is only one-time process. One time we will create the project, we will download, we will import into IDE. Next 1 year, we will work on the same project. So whether it is Eclipse or STS, farak nahi padega, because we are creating only one time. But in the training, how many projects I will create? Every day I have to create a new project. So if I want to create every day new project, Eclipse is better, STS is better. STS. Why? Every day go to website, create, download, extract, import. Why? Directly from STS I can create the project. So this is another approach to create the Spring Boot application. And third approach, currently in the industry, people are using IntelliJ IDEA to develop the projects. For the Java projects development currently, which IDE is used in the market? Currently people are using IntelliJ IDE. IntelliJ is very powerful, very advanced IDE when compared with Eclipse and Spring Toolsuit. So it is recommended to use IntelliJ IDE to develop the project. But with IntelliJ IDE, there is a problem. That is licensed software. STS is free, Eclipse is also free, but IntelliJ is a commercial IDE. You need to purchase the license. In the IntelliJ IDE, there are two flavors available. One is Enterprise IntelliJ is available, Community IntelliJ is available. One is Enterprise. That means you need to purchase the license. If you purchase the license of the IntelliJ, using IntelliJ also, you can create the project directly. Like how we are creating the project in the STS, if you want to create Spring Boot application in the IntelliJ directly, you need to go for Enterprise version of the IntelliJ. You need to purchase the license of the IntelliJ. Okay? But if you go for free version of IntelliJ, that is community version of the IntelliJ. If you go for community version of IntelliJ, directly you cannot create the Spring Boot project. You go to initializer website, create the project, download, import. How you will do that for the Eclipse IDE? Same thing we need to do when you go for IntelliJ community IDE. But STS, directly you can create. STS is free of cost. Are you able to understand my point? So how many ways we can create the Spring Boot project, guys? What is the first one? Approach one. Create boot application using Spring initializer website, then download it and extract it and import into Eclipse or IntelliJ. If you use enterprise version of IntelliJ, you no need to download. Directly it will support for creating the project. But if you use community version of IntelliJ, this is the process. Go to initializer website, then create boot application using initializer website, then download it and extract it and import into Eclipse or IntelliJ IDE. That is one approach. Then what is the second approach available? Use STS IDE to create Spring Boot application directly. Do I need to download and import? Not required. Do I need to download and import, or directly I can create here? Directly we can create by using STS IDE. You can use any approach to create the boot application, right? So you can go to initializer website, you create the project, you download the project, it will give you zip file, you extract that zip file and you import that project into Eclipse or IntelliJ. If you want to create the project directly, then you can go for STS IDE to create the boot application directly. Are you guys clear with my point? Now, so and one point that you need to remember, to create boot application, to create Spring Boot application, internet is mandatory. If you are using IDE, then internet is required because your IDE should connect with the initializer website only. Internet connection is mandatory when you are creating the project. Once the project is created, then not required. Directly you can start the coding part. At the time of a project creation, internet connection is mandatory for our system, then only we can create it. Are you able to follow this? Now, how to download these IDEs, guys? So, which IDE is your favorite? Eclipse or STS or IntelliJ? Eclipse is your favorite. Okay. Remaining people? STS. STS and Eclipse both are 100% same. Only in the STS, additional functionality available to create the boot application. If you are using Eclipse, you can use STS also. The advantage, directly you can create the boot applications in the STS IDE. Okay. So now, for next 1 week, I will use the STS IDE to create the boot application. After that, I will use IntelliJ IDE to create the boot application, because in the industry, people are using IntelliJ IDE. Company will provide you license for the IntelliJ. So once you join in the company will give you license for the IntelliJ. For a practice purpose in the training, we can go with the community version of the IntelliJ. Okay, how to download STS IDE? Let me show you the link to download STS IDE. Go to STS IDE download. From the official website, Spring Tools website is available, spring.io. Go to this website, then not this one, guys. Yeah. For Windows operating system, I want to download Spring Tools 4 for Eclipse. Okay. So this is Spring Tool Suite for TI is available. Spring Tool Suite is available now. Spring.io. This is the link, guys. Spring Tool Suite for Windows. If you click on this link, it will download the Spring Tool Suite IDE for you. Copy the link address. If you click on this one, then you can see that my Spring Tool Suite jar file is downloading. The jar file is downloading. If you run that jar file, then Spring Tool Suite IDE will come for you. Okay. So you need to download this jar file. STS download link. STS download link. How we are downloading STS now? Jar. It is a Java project. IDE is a standalone Java project. It is available as a jar file. Once you download that jar file, you need to run the jar file. How to run the jar file? Java space -jar space file name. Okay. So this is the process. So you will use this link to download STS jar file. Once that jar is downloaded, you need to run the jar file like this from the command prompt. Go to the command prompt, the location where the jar is available. You run that jar file with this command. Then Spring Tool Suite IDE will be available for you. Are you clear with my point? Perfect. So let us see here. Still it is, yes, my jar is downloaded successfully. Let me show you this. Go to downloads, take the jar file, copy this jar file. Where is that? SBMS. Yeah, SBMS. Now I'm keeping STS. In this, my jar file is available. A lengthy jar file we are getting. Okay. So can I rename this? STS.jar. So I copied this from the downloads folder and I kept into my SBMS folder. My jar file is available. Open command prompt from the same location where the jar is available. Okay. So how I am opening the command prompt from the same location? If you see, go to the location, click on the search bar. In the search bar, type the CMD, enter. Then command prompt is opening from the same location where the jar is available. Once command prompt is opened from there, then what we need to do? Here, Java space -jar space STS.jar. Now currently in this location, anything is available? No. Just execute. Yes. It is extracting that jar file. Yes, completed. Now go to that location. Now can you see STS folder got created? Go to that STS folder. Here you can see springtoolsuite.exe file is available. Now let me close the existing IDE. Now currently STS is not available. When I have executed my jar file, When I executed my jar file, you can see SBMS folder. Earlier only jar is available. Now one folder got created. Go to this folder, toolsuite4.exe file is available. Just double click on this file. Then my IDE is ready. My Spring Toolsuite IDE is ready. By using this, you can develop Spring applications directly. Are you clear with my point? Very good. Next, this is downloading STS. How to install STS IDE. So we can use this IDE to develop our Spring Boot applications. Okay. First step, download STS IDE jar file. Then this is the link to download that, guys. Then second step, run that jar file from CMD. Syntax, Java space -jar space jar file name. Once it is executed, now go to STS folder, and run and open sts.exe file. Okay, this kind of exe file will be created. Spring Toolsuite 4.exe file is created. If you just run this exe file, then your STS IDE will be available for you. Are you clear with my point? Any questions on, is it difficult process to set up STS? So I want all of you to use STS IDE from today to develop your application. If you have Eclipse, remove that. Remove that Eclipse, not required. You can go with the STS IDE to develop our boot application. Now, how to install IntelliJ IDE? If anybody favorite is IntelliJ IDE, how to install IntelliJ IDE? Okay. Now, I want to download IntelliJ IDE. Right. Go to Google and type IntelliJ download. So JetBrains company provided this IntelliJ IDE, the leading Java and Kotlin IDE it is. Open this one now. So close this. IntelliJ IDE Ultimate. What is the meaning of Ultimate? Licensed. For the licensed version, free 30-day trial will be available. So if you download this IDE, IntelliJ Ultimate Edition, that is Enterprise IDE, 30 days free of cost you can use. But after 30 days, it will ask for the license. License you have to purchase from the JetBrains company. I don't want that. What is this? Community Edition. Community Edition is nothing but free IDE, free of cost. No need to pay the money. So let's go and download this community version. So this also available as a zip file, exe file, and exe is available. Let me go here, copy the link address for you. You can click on download exe file. Click on download. Now you can see my IntelliJ IDE.exe file is downloading. Once it is downloaded, double click on that and install that IDE. Let me give you this link also. Copy link address. Okay. Download IntelliJ community version. Download link. Okay. It is going to download the exe file for you. So double click on that exe file and install. Once .exe file is downloaded, once exe file is downloaded, double click and install it. It will take 5 to 10 minutes of time, guys, to install the IntelliJ IDE. You just double click on that IDE and you install that IDE. So you can use, the .exe file is downloaded. Let me go here and let me show you. In the downloads folder, .exe file is downloaded for the IntelliJ. Just let me double click on this and install this IntelliJ IDE. Click on yes. Welcome to IntelliJ Community Edition, that is free of cost. Click on next. It is going to take 2.4 GB of space to install that IDE. Okay. So click on next. Community Edition. Do you want to create the desktop? No need to select anything. Just click on next. Click on install. That's it. With this, IntelliJ IDEA Community Edition is getting installed in our system. So Few days I will go with STS IDE. After that, I will go with the IntelliJ IDE. Yeah. Eclipse and STS both are 100% same. In the STS, some extra features will be available to create the boot application. But IntelliJ is completely different than Eclipse. Okay, debugging shortcuts, the look and feel of IntelliJ is different when compared with Eclipse and STS. I will prepare one video also how to work with IntelliJ IDE, how to do the debug. I have given Eclipse debugging video. Same thing will work in the STS also. But when you go for IntelliJ, different shortcuts will be available for the debugging. So that the process, the working style will be different with the IntelliJ. I will prepare one video on that. In the industry, currently people are using IntelliJ. Right. Let me run IntelliJ Community Edition. The installation got completed. Click on finish. Yes. So this is more advanced functionalities are available in the IntelliJ. Yeah. Yeah. Click on continue. JetBrains. Yes. With this, my IntelliJ IDE is also ready, guys. So with this, this is the IntelliJ IDE. Click on new project. Now I want to create a new project. So here, when I am going to click on new project with the Spring, what they are saying? So directly, can I create the Spring project in the IntelliJ? No. They are telling that, boss, you are using Community Edition. If you want to create the Spring-based boot applications directly, go for Ultimate Edition, which is a commercial. Then what I need to do here? Go to initializer website, create the project, download, and import that project into IntelliJ IDE. Okay. So I hope you got the clarity. How many ways we can create Spring Boot application? How many ways we can create the boot application, guys? 2 ways. What is the approach 1? What is the approach 1? Create the boot application using initializer website, then download it and extract it and import into Eclipse or IntelliJ IDE. So approach 2, using STS IDE, use STS IDE to create a Spring Boot application directly. Okay. Now here, one point here, note IntelliJ ultimate version will support Spring Boot project creation directly. Spring Boot project creation directly. IntelliJ Ultimate is licensed. Is licensed. Now, when you go for STS IDE, what will happen? STS IDE will communicate with initializer website to download project directly. Okay. Create website and use it. What is the URL to go to that website, guys? start.spring.io. This is the website URL. By using that URL, you can create the boot application. If you use STS IDE, directly it will download from the initializer website. How to install STS IDE? Download the STS jar file from below link. Then you run that jar file from the CMD. This is the syntax. Once you execute the jar file, it will extract that jar file, go to STS folder and open toolsuite IDE file to work with the project's development. If you want to go with IntelliJ IDE, download IntelliJ community version from the below link. Then once exe file is downloaded, double click and install it. Once it is installed, then IntelliJ IDE is ready. You can use this also to develop Java applications. You can go with Eclipse, you can go with IntelliJ, you can go with STS also. I'm not going to use Eclipse now. I will use STS and I will use IntelliJ. Eclipse is for the beginners who are learning core Java. For them, Eclipse. But are you beginner now? No, we are professionals. We need to use a professional IDE. So the professional IDE, STS and IntelliJ. Good? Yep. In the industry, people will not use Eclipse nowadays. Either STS or IntelliJ. Good. So with this IDE setup is done, guys. I want all of you to practice this setups and try to create first Spring Boot application and try to run that application. Add the web starter, run the project. Add the security starter, run the project. Add the JPA starter, run the, just you play with the Spring Boot project, Spring Boot dependencies before coming to tomorrow's session. Go to initializer website, create the project, download that, import that project and run that project. Then go to STS IDE, create the project, run the project. Then go to IntelliJ IDE, create the project, run the project. You just play with all the IDEs by using Spring Boot application. Tomorrow, we are going to understand the directory structure of the Spring Boot application. When I create a boot application, what files will be created, how to run that boot application, internals of the Spring Boot we are going to learn from tomorrow. Today we discussed about what is the Spring Boot, what are the advantages with the Spring Boot, and how to create the Spring Boot application. Tomorrow we will discuss about Spring Boot project structure, internals of the Spring Boot. Is this clear for everyone? Yes. Any questions, anybody? No questions? Good. Fine. Online people, anybody having any questions?